I never thought I'd be the kind of person with a secret this big. From the outside, my life looked perfect. A stable marriage, a cozy house, the kind of picture people scroll past on social media and think, they've got it all together. But perfect pictures hide messy corners. It started with late nights at work. I'd tell James, my husband, that I had extra projects, deadlines I couldn't ignore. The truth? I just didn't want to be home. The tension between us had been building for months, silent but heavy, like a storm that refuses to break. Then there was Ryan. He was nothing like James. Louder, more impulsive, the kind of person who made you feel like the rules didn't matter. I met him through a mutual friend at a neighborhood barbecue, and from the first conversation, it was like we'd known each other for years. We started talking. Just texts at first. Then calls. Then meetings. One Friday evening, James texted that he'd be working late. I thought I had hours before he came home. Ryan had stopped by to drop something off, but the way he leaned against the garage wall told me we both knew it wasn't about a package. We were laughing, too loud, too careless, when the moment slipped out. I said his name. Not just his name, but in a way that carried more weight than I ever meant for it to. My voice echoed in the garage, and for a second, even Ryan froze. And then I heard it. A knock. Not on the front door, not on the side entrance, but on the thin, rattling garage door that separated us from the driveway. My heart stopped. I turned, and through the small, grimy window I saw James. Standing there. His eyes locked on me like he could see straight through my skin. I stumbled back, words dying in my throat. Ryan straightened, his smile gone, every trace of humor replaced with that wide-eyed, "We've been caught" look. James didn't say a word. He just knocked again, slower this time. The kind of knock you feel in your bones. I opened the side door, my hands trembling. "James, He held up his hand to stop me. "Save it," he said, his voice low, almost calm, which was somehow worse than yelling. Behind me, Ryan mumbled something about leaving, but James didn't even glance his way. His eyes stayed on mine, sharp and unblinking. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about what he'd seen. It was about everything I'd broken long before tonight. James stepped inside the garage without asking. His shoes scraped against the concrete, each step slow, deliberate, like he was buying time to choose his words. Ryan muttered something about having to go and slipped past him. But not before James turned his head just enough to give him a look, a sharp, wordless warning that sent Ryan hurrying to his car. The moment the door slammed behind him, the silence thickened. James didn't look at me right away. Instead, he picked up a wrench from the workbench, turning it in his hands like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Finally, he said, "How long?" His voice was steady, but I could hear the crack under the surface. I opened my mouth, but the truth felt too heavy to push out. "It's not what you think." He let out a humorless laugh, setting the wrench down with a dull clink. "Don't insult me, Claire. You were screaming his name. I'm pretty sure I can connect the dots." I wanted to say something that would fix it, rewind time, erase the garage, erase Ryan. But there was nothing. James's eyes finally met mine. "Was it worth it?" he asked. I flinched. I don't know." That was the wrong answer. He shook his head, pressing his lips together like he was holding back the thousand things he wanted to say. "You know, I used to think we could survive anything. Even the nights you barely looked at me. Even the way you checked your phone more than you looked me in the eye. I told myself you were just tired. Stressed. I didn't want to believe you'd give pieces of yourself to someone else." I felt the sting of guilt, but it was tangled with defensiveness. "You haven't exactly been perfect either," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. "Maybe not. But I didn't invite someone else into our life like this." The words sat between us, sharp and unforgiving. I stepped closer, reaching for his hand, but he pulled away. "Don't," he said, his voice breaking just enough to betray the pain he was trying to hide. We stood there in the half-lit garage, both of us knowing the damage wasn't just in what happened tonight. It had been growing for months, maybe years. Finally, James turned toward the door. "I need space," he said. "I'll come back for my things." Panic flared in my chest. "James, please." But he didn't stop. The door closed behind him, and I was left alone in the cold, the echo of his knock still pounding in my head. That night, I sat on the couch staring at the blank television screen. The house felt different without him. Heavier, emptier, and yet somehow suffocating. Every sound, every shadow, reminded me of his absence. I thought he'd come back after cooling down. That's what he always did after an argument. Disappear for a few hours, then return with tired eyes and a half-hearted, "Let's talk." But morning came and he didn't. Instead, I got a text. "Don't call me. I'll send someone for my stuff." My hands trembled as I read it, my throat tightening. This wasn't just a fight. This was the kind of ending that didn't leave room for maybe. Still, I tried. I called. He didn't answer. I drove to his brother's house, but he wasn't there. Days passed. Each one felt like a punishment I'd written for myself. And then came the part one didn't expect. A message from my sister-in-law. "I heard about the garage. But you should know. James already knew. Weeks ago." The words blurred on the screen as I read them over and over. What did she mean he already knew? I called her immediately. She sounded hesitant, almost guilty. "He saw your phone a few weeks back. Messages from Ryan. He didn't say anything because he was hoping you'd stop on your own." A strange mix of shame and something like relief washed over me. All this time, James had been carrying that weight alone. But that wasn't the worst part. She continued, "He's been staying at your mom's place." I froze. My mom's? She hadn't said a word to me. I drove there that night. My mom opened the door like nothing was wrong, but I could see the flicker of tension in her eyes. "He's in the kitchen," she said quietly. James looked tired, like the fight had been drained from him. "I didn't come here to fight," I said. "I came because I need you to know. I'm sorry. Not just for the garage. For everything. For making you feel like you weren't enough when you were the only one who ever really saw me." He stared at me for a long moment, then said, "Do you want the truth? I loved you so much that I ignored every sign you were slipping away. And by the time I stopped pretending, it was already over." I felt the tears coming, but he didn't move toward me. He didn't offer comfort. Instead, he added, "I'm filing next week. This isn't revenge. It's self-respect." The words hit harder than I expected. I left without arguing. Because for once I understood. And maybe that was the real punishment. Not losing him in the garage that night, but realizing I'd lost him long before, in 100 small moments I never noticed.